Good afternoon, class. For our chapter 3 of our course, we have examination of dangerous drugs. So we'll go first to the definition of terms. We have drug. A drug is a natural or synthetic substance that is used to produce physiological or psychological effects in humans or other high-order animals. So we have here physiological and psychological. So physiological meaning sa katawan ng tao, it has something to do with our body and the systems inside our body, while psychological effects means it is from our central nervous system or CNS or the brain. Okay, it has effects on the body, both body and brain. Okay, in humans or even high order animals. Drugs are considered toxic, which wherein the dosage differentiates the therapeutic drug from poison. So, hindi lahat ng drugs ay masama kasi some of it we use to treat diseases, yung mga illnesses, while depending on the dosage, kapag ka sumobra or sobrang konti naman, it will vary from being therapeutic or yung nakakagaling, and then it will become poisonous. So, dapat tamang dosage lang yung iniinom natin palagi. That's why binibigyan tayo ng reseta ng mga doktor. At dapat susundin natin yun. For example, yung mga antibiotics. Kapag may nakitang bacterial infection, binibigyan tayo ng mga doctors natin ng antibiotics, and meron doon prescription na nilalagay kung ilang days natin siya dapat i-take, gaano kadalas sa isang araw. So, dapat susundin natin yun. Pag sinabing 7 days iinumin yung antibiotic, kahit mabuti na yung pakiramdam natin, dapat tatapusin natin yung 7 days, yung prescribed period and time na iinumin yon. Bakit? Kasi kapag hindi natin sinunod yun, kapag hininto natin agad yung pag-take na antibiotics nang hindi pa natin natatapos yung prescribed period, magkakaroon ng development ng resistance to antibiotics yung katawan natin. So, ang mangyayari, pag resistant na tayo sa isang antibiotic, hindi na siya gagana sa mga bacterial infections natin. Hindi na magre-respond correctly yung katawan natin sa mga antibiotics na ipe-prescribe pa sa atin. That is why very important yung pagsunod natin sa mga prescriptions ng mga doktor natin. Okay? So, we have medicine. This is prepared by any combination of drug and inert ingredients measured in certain doses, which, when taken into the human body, cures illnesses and or relieves signs or symptoms of diseases. The mode of ingestion includes swallowing, injection, inhalation, and absorption through the skin. So, depending on the medicine that is given to us by the doctors. Then we have dangerous drugs. These are substances that affects or controls the central nervous system. Yung central nervous system natin is our brain, and causes physiological, emotional, and behavioral changes in a person. So, hindi lang siya sa katawan nagmamanifest or sa brain, nagkakaroon din ng behavioral changes sa pagkatao ng isang person. And then, drug dependency or addiction is a cluster of physiological actions wherein a person will have a strong desire and difficulty in controlling it to take a certain drug. So, doon na nangyayari yung addiction or dependency. Nagiging dependent na siya sa drugs. Hindi siya nagiging wasto yung pag-iisip niya at saka yung attitude niya or yung ginagawa niya kapag hindi siya nakapag-take na certain drug na yon. So, that's dependency already. Nagiging dependent na siya dun sa drug. Okay? Next, we will have the signs of drug abuse. So, kapag nakita natin yung mga signs na to, it means na nag-i-start na or medyo nagma-manifest na yung abuse niya or dependency niya sa drugs. So, meron dyan withdrawn from family activities, lalo na yung before, lagi siyang kasama, lagi siyang nakikibanding sa family niya. And then, seems to have a lot of money or is always asking for money. Kasi kailangan niyang i-sustain yung need niya para makapag-purchase ng certain drug na yon. Steal or loses possession he or she used to value. Kasi minsan binebenta yung mga dating mahahalagang bagay sa kanya para lang makapag-purchase ng drugs na kailangan niya. Secretive, not taking care of personal hygiene, napapabayaan na niya yung sarili niya. What's important to him or her na lang is to be able to take that certain drug. So he or she can be awake most of the time, or pwede din naman yung kabilang effect, depending on what drug he or she is taking, pwede rin naman sleeps most of the time. Weight gain or weight loss, hyperactive or little energy, drops old friends and activities, nagiging loner na siya, hindi na siya nakikisama sa iba, then lose interest in school and other activities. So, we will have the dangerous drugs classification. First is according to the method of production, kung paano siyang ginagawa. So, we have natural drugs. These are found as active ingredients. Secondary metabolic products of plants and other living systems that can be isolated by extraction. So, yung natural, galing siya sa mga plants or other living systems, pwedeng mushrooms or fungi, ganyan. So, these are the examples. We have morphine, marijuana hashish from the marijuana plant, cocaine from coca plant, ephedrine from ephedra plant. So, yan yung nakukuhang derivative or extracts ng mga plants na to kasi it undergoes extraction. And then, after i-extract sila, i-concentrate para makuha yung desired drug. Okay? So, then we have semi-synthetic. The products of natural source but have undergone chemical processes. So, semi lang siya. Galing siya sa natural source, pero nag-undergo na siya ng chemical processes. So, we have heroin from morphine. Ito yung process na in-undergo niya, acetylation process. And then, we have codeine from opium and marijuana oil from hashish. Kanina yung hashish is natural. And then, kapag nag-undergo na siya ng chemical process, nakukuha yung marijuana oil. Yung marijuana oil is semi-synthetic. Okay? Then we have synthetic. These are artificially produced substances in the laboratory which are almost wholly manufactured from chemicals in the illicit laboratories or yung mga tinatawag natin na clandestine laboratories or clan lab. Yan. Yun yung mga illicit na laboratories na nire-raid, yung mga ganon. Diyan nagpo-produce ng mga synthetic na drugs. So, we have an example which is methamphetamine or methylamphetamine made from phenylacetone or P2P. If you have happened to watch in Netflix yung Breaking Bad, that's an example of production of methamphetamine. Meron doon silang ginamit na, I'm not sure if at first is P2P yung ginagamit nila or yung later na dalawa kasing pathways. Pwedeng from ephedrine yung raw materials ng methamphetamine, and pwede rin namang phenylacetone or P2P. So, yung pinoproduce yung methamphetamine from these raw materials, and then pinoproduce sila sa isang laboratory to form methamphetamine or methylamphetamine or yung shabu na tinatawag natin. So, kung makikita nyo doon, kahit na isang RV lang yung ginagamit nila, basta may kompleto silang materials, it can also be considered as a clan lab also because it's an illicit laboratory. So another is designer. These are drugs whose molecular structure has been modified in order to optimize their effect and to bypass the laws and regulations governing the control of these substances. For example, we have MDMA or ecstasy. These have the combined effect of a stimulant and also a depressant, and this is not at first included in the RA 6425 or yung regulation law natin. Hindi pa kasama yung MDA at that time. That is why pinroduce nila yan at naging designer drugs. So, we also have ketamine. These are used by veterinarians and still not included in RA 9165 pero considered siya as dangerous drugs. Nitrazepam, this is 10 times stronger than ordinary depressants or the Valium. But hindi pa siya sinasama sa mga regulating laws. That's why yun yung ginagamit ng mga nagpo-produce ng dangerous drugs, nagsusupply ng dangerous drugs para lang maituloy nila yung illegal business nila. Okay, so once the competent authorities have outlawed designer drugs, they are then called controlled substances. So, hindi na sila designer drugs, kundi controlled substances na kapag nailagay na sila or naisama nila na sila sa schedule dun sa laws. For example, MDMA was not at first included in 6425. But now, in RA 9165, MDMA or ecstasy is already included. That is why MDMA is already a controlled substance. So we have classification according to law, either 6425 or PD 1619, and then also we have RA 9165. So according to the law, we have prohibited drugs. These are not legally sold unless otherwise authorized by a competent authority. So siguro merong mga sobrang in need ng drugs na to, like narcotics, because they are painkillers and sleeping pills, opium, morphine, heroin. Ginagamit to sa mga hospitals, lalo na sa mga lalo na during operations para ma-alleviate yung pain na nararamdaman ng isang patient. So we also have heroin. So they are prohibited, but they can be sold under authority of a competent authority, I mean. So we also have stimulants and hallucinogens like marijuana. Kaya merong subject ng pagli-legalize ng medicinal marijuana because it can be used for medicinal purposes. So sa ngayon, medyo pinag-uusapan pa yan sa atin, or I'm not sure kung tinutuloy nila yung pagli-legalize ng medicinal uses of marijuana dito sa Philippines. But as for now, hindi pa siya legal. That's why it's still considered dangerous drug. So, prohibited drug pa lang siya. But in other countries, marijuana is legal. But here in the Philippines, it's not. So, we have regulated drug. These are sold with a prescription through over-the-counter purchases like barbiturates, hypnotics, amphetamine. So, it depends on the situation or yung diagnosis ng isang doctor. Especially, ginagamit yan sa merong mga schizophrenia, merong mga bipolar disorder, yung mga illnesses that pertains to the brain or to the functions of the central nervous system. Usually, dyan ginagamit yung mga regulated drugs na yan. Then we have volatiles under PD 1619. These are any liquid, solid, or mixed substances having the property of releasing toxic vapors or fumes containing one or more of the following chemical compounds. So, ito yung mga chemical compounds na prohibited under the law PD 1619. So, kapag meron itong mga chemicals na to, malalaman naman yun during examination or kapag tiningnan sa label. So, usually, ang na-examine ko dito sa PD 1619 is yung toluene. This one. Toluene. So, these are chemicals when sniffed, smelled, or inhaled or introduced into the physiological system of the body, produces or induces a condition of intoxication. Inebriation, excitement, stupefaction, dulling of the brain or nervous system, depression, giddiness, paralysis, or irrational behavior, or in any manner changing or distorting the auditory, visual, or mental processes. So, ito yung mga nagiging effect ng sinabing compounds dito, which are volatile, which means madali silang mag-evaporate. For example, acetone. Yung acetone, ito kasama siya dito. That's why nire-regulate yung pagtitinda ng mga acetone, lalo na ng PDEA. So, before ka makabili ng acetone na hindi yung pantanggal ng cutics, actually may acetone yun, pero ginagamit siya sa market already. Pero yung acetone kasi is one example ng volatiles or volatile substances na na-encounter natin most of the time, lalo na yung mga girls na nagre-remove ng nail polish. Yung acetone kasi is, kung mapapansin nyo, malamig siya and then madali siyang matuyo. That is why tawag sa kanya is volatile kasi madali siyang mag-evaporate. For example, maglalagay tayo ng a little bit of siguro mga 3 drops na acetone sa isang watch glass and then i-observe natin siya. Wala kang gagawin, hindi mo siya kailangang i-heat, just let it stay there and then mag-evaporate na siya. Mabilis na matutuyo yung 3 drops ng acetone na ilalagay natin sa watch glass. Kasi nga volatile siya, nag-escape nag-change siya from liquid to gas ng mas mabilis. Hindi katulad ng tubig. For example, water, hindi naman siya volatile, pero nag-evaporate din siya. As long as, for example, pakukuluan natin siya, i-heat natin yung water, and then kapag na-reach na niya yung boiling point niya, mag-start na siyang mag-evaporate or mag-release ng steam, and that's the time na matutuyo yung tubig natin. But yung acetone, since volatile siya, natutuyo siya on its own, lalo na kung nasa open air. Ang usually yung na-encounter ko during my examinations pertaining to violations of PD 1619 is yung toluene, yung substance or yung content. And generally, yung substance or specimen na sinasubmit sa amin ng investigator on case or ng requesting party is the so-called rugby. Yung rugby na hinuhuli dun sa mga tinatawag na rugby boys, yan. Ang compound na meron siya, na volatile compound is toluene. So, i-examine ko siya for the presence of toluene. So, ang purpose ng examination ko pertaining to violation of PD 1619 is to determine the presence of volatile substances. So, usually ang lumalabas na volatile substance examination ko, lalo na kung rugby, is the presence of toluene. So, that is a violation of the PD 1619. Okay? So, we have, according to physiological effects, this classification tells us that some drugs may fall into more than one category. Okay, let's see. First is analgesics. These are drugs that relieves pain. Aspirin, ibuprofen, naproxen, and morphine. For example, masakit ngipin natin, bibigyan tayo ng ibuprofen. Yan yung mga tinatawag natin na analgesics. Then we have aspirin. This reduces pain by inhibiting the pain-inducing event, whereas morphine intercepts the pain signal after it is produced. So magkakaiba sila ng tina-target sa brain natin or sa central nervous system. Magkakaiba sila ng way para pag-inhibit sa pain, but they are all pain relievers. Itong nabanggit ko, aspirin and morphine. Okay, so let's differentiate aspirin and morphine. Ano ba yung pagkakaiba nila? Although pareho silang pain reliever or pareho silang analgesic. So aspirin, it inhibits the pain-inducing event. Okay? It reduces pain, but it does not produce euphoria along with the pain reduction. So hindi siya nagko-cause ng euphoria, just plain reduction of pain lang. So, pwede kang sa sobrang sakit ng ulo mo, nag-take ka ng aspirin. Later on, pwede kang makatulog and then, after mong matulog, pwede nang wala na yung pain kasi na-inhibit na siya ng aspirin. But as per morphine, it intercepts the pain signal after it is produced. Okay, it has side effects such as deep relaxation and euphoria pa. So, kung sa aspirin, medyo makakatulog ka lang and then the pain will not be there anymore. Sa morphine, meron siyang side effect na deep relaxation and euphoria. That is why yung morphine considered siya as regulated drug, while yung aspirin is, I think it can be bought over the counter. So, they are different. So, ito, nire-regulate yung morphine, although pareho sila na analgesic. So, it depends on the action of the drugs to the body or to the system of an individual that will determine if it is illegal or regulated, or it can be bought over the counter only without a prescription and or without violating the law. So now we have depressants or downers. These are the class of drugs that depress the functions of the central nervous system, resulting to the reduction of anxiety and slowed heartbeat. So kapag usually ginagamit to sa mga taong hyper na nagwawala, yung mga ganun, binibigyan sila ng mga depressants para medyo mag-normalize yung heartbeat nila and mabawasan yung anxiety nila. So we have sedatives. They are used to calm the nerves, reduce tension, and induce sleep. So, ito yung mga ini-inject usually or pinapainom dun sa mga uncontrollable na personalities. So, we have tranquilizers, barbiturates, anxiolytics, anticonvulsants, soporifics, and sleeping pills. So, itong anticonvulsants ginagamit sa mga epileptic seizures. So, binababaan ng downers yung activity or functions ng central nervous system kasi usually nagiging hyper yung mga subjects. That's why kailangan ng sedatives para makalm yung nerves at mabawasan yung tension. So, we have hallucinogens. These are drugs that alter the perception of time and reality. This is a difficult effect to quantify. Bakit mahirap daw siyang i-quantify? Kasi hindi natin alam kung ano yung nakikita ng isang tao. Nakatulala pala siya pero iba-iba na pala yung nagpa-play sa isip niya. Iba-iba na yung nakikita niya. That's why it's very difficult to quantify. So, movement, thought, perceptions, vision, and hearing are also affected. Then we have narcotics, generally painkillers or sleeping pills. We have opium, morphine, heroin. Sabi natin kanina, sa umpisa pa lang nitong according to physiological effects, drugs may fall into more than one category. Narcotics, we have morphine. Kanina, diniscuss natin yung morphine under, do you still remember, class? Diba, morphine is also under analgesics. Okay? That's why meron siyang nakalagay dito na note na they may fall into more than one category. And then we have stimulants. This stimulates the central nervous system to keep the individual awake at most of the times. The examples of these are methamphetamine hydrochloride and amphetamines. Actually, yung yung methamphetamine hydrochloride is a derivative of amphetamine. So, before kasi, ang regulated lang or ang dangerous drugs ay yung amphetamines. But dahil nga nagkaroon ng mga designer drugs, gumawa ng paraan yung mga drug manufacturers or illegal drug manufacturers para supply pa rin sila ng a different drug, hindi amphetamine but with the same effects. So, nag-produce sila ng methamphetamine. So, from amphetamine, naggawa sila ng methamphetamine hydrochloride which have the same effect, but at that time before RA 9165 or RA 6425, hindi pa siya regulated or controlled. So we have kung mapapansin nyo, I'm not sure if you have already noticed, we have the so-called downers or depressants, diba? Yung depressants natin, if we'll take a look at it again, if you can remember, these are class of drugs that depress. They depress the functions of the central nervous system. And while these depressants depress, that's why it's called depressants or the downers, the functions of the central nervous system or slowing it down, meron naman tayong tinatawag na stimulants. It stimulates naman the central nervous system or the functions of the central nervous system to keep the individual awake at most of the times. So, kung yung depressants, nagde-depression ng central nervous system, yung effect naman ng stimulants ay kabaliktaran ng depressants. That is why dun sa first slides natin, let's go back. Dito sa previous slide natin kanina, meron tayo dito yung signs of drug abuse. So, meron dito awake most of the time, and then meron siyang kabaliktaran na sleeps most of the time. Merong weight gain, meron din siyang in contrary, meron namang weight loss. We have hyperactiveness, and then we have too little energy. Kung mapapansin nyo, these are the effects of depressants and stimulants. So, kapag depressants, syempre nakakatulog yung individual kasi nade-depress yung functions ng central nervous system, making him sleep most of the time, him or her sleep most of the time. And then, yung stimulants naman, since nag-stimulate siya ng functions ng central nervous system, the individual is kept awake most of the time. So, kapag naman sa stimulants, ang dito sa dalawa na to, nagkakaroon ng weight loss. Bakit weight loss sa stimulants? Kasi yung individual, hindi niya nararamdaman na nagugutom siya. Kasi nga, sobrang hyperactive siya at hindi na niya nagagawang kumain. While yung depressants naman, nagkakaroon siya ng effect ng weight gain. So, yung hyperactivity sa stimulants, of course, and then little energy yung sa depressants, okay? That is why yung nagiging issue before sa mga actresses or actors na bigla ang pumapayat, sinasabi na isang indicator yun na baka nagtitake sila ng dangerous drugs, katulad ng mga stimulants. Okay? Dahil yun yung isang purpose is to lose weight. Okay, so we'll go back. So, yun nga, yung examples are amphetamine and methamphetamine hydrochloride. So, next, we have dangerous drugs awareness and prevention. So, we'll take this up a little para lang magkaroon kayo din ng awareness since mostly ang victims ng drug abuse ay yung mga students katulad nyo or the youth. That's why we are at the crime laboratory para nagkakandak kami ng mga awareness seminars and prevention para matulungan namin yung youth na maging aware sila sa mga negative effects ng dangerous drugs. So, isingit lang natin itong konti sa discussion natin and malamang may mapupulot din tayo ng mga lessons dito. So, stimulants. These are drugs which increases temporary alertness of physical disposition. Usually, tinitake ang nag-abuse or nagkakaroon ng dependency sa stimulants, yung mga persons na kailangan sa trabaho is usually gising ng 24 hours or night shifts, mga ganyan. Sad to say, but the reality is there na meron tayong mga medical professionals, even medical professionals, nahuhuli sa paggamit ng dangerous drugs kasi nga dun sa demand ng work nila. Kaya lang, mali pa rin yun. Okay? So, we have shabu or methamphetamine hydrochloride. So, these are the images of shabu. Ito yung I want you to take a closer look at this. Itong image na to, kung mapapansin nyo, nasa loob siya ng plastic. Usually, ganito yung mga substances or specimen na nare-receive namin for examination sa laboratory. So, upon physical examination, titingnan natin yung physical appearance ng substance, pati yung packaging niya. So, we have heat-sealed. We can see it as transparent plastic sachet. And then it containing, we can see it as white crystalline substance. So that is the physical appearance of shabu. Most of it are like that in physical appearance. Kasi nga sabi ko kanina, iba-iba rin ng route or way ng production yung methamphetamine hydrochloride. If you have already watched Breaking Bad in Netflix, mapapansin nyo kasi before yung nakasanayan ng cartel, as per the story, is white crystalline substance. But yung na-produce nila using another method or another ingredient is bluish. So, hindi naman siya laging ganito yung description niya. So, that is an example of methamphetamine hydrochloride. So, there it is. If we take a closer look at the crystals, usually yung characteristic ng methamphetamine hydrochloride or the shabu, it is brittle. So, kapag tinry mong i-break to, mababreak siya agad because of its characteristic of being brittle. Yan ang difference niya sa alum or tawas. Kasi usually, yung ibang nagbebenta, hinahaluan nila or dinadagdagan nila ng additional na alum yung nilalagay nila, for example, dito sa sachet. So, maglalagay sila ng siguro kalahati ng pure na methamphetamine hydrochloride and nadadagdagan nila ng alum or yung tinatawag natin na tawas. But the difference is physically, sa physical characteristic niya. Although they both appear as white crystalline substance, yung methamphetamine is brittle, while yung alum or tawas is not. So, this is not brittle. Hindi siya madaling maputol. Hindi mo siya, kung ganito yung appearance ng tawas, hindi mo siya mapabreak agad using your hands only. So, kaya yung tawas is dinudurog siya using a mortar and pestle or yung dikdikan. So, if you take a closer look, there. Okay. So, mostly, yan yung physical appearance ng methamphetamine hydrochloride. It's crystalline in nature. So, this is one mode of taking it. One mode of ingestion. This is one mode of the drugs entering the body. So, pwedeng injection, pwede rin namang inhalation. Kaya meron tayong mga nare-recover na drug paraphernalia na mga tutors. Kasi nag-experimentation din sila during pot session siguro. Pwedeng nag-i-inject sila. Ni-inject nila yung mismong drugs. Or pwede rin naman na ini-inhale nila. Okay, so those are examples of the mode of entry of the drug inside the body. So, what are the effects of shabu? Bakit ba nagte-take ng shabu yung ibang mga tao? So, in general, pwede kang magkaroon ng anxiety, which means it is a multi-system response to perceived threat or danger. So, kahit na palagi kang parang natatakot or palagi kang merong iniisip na mangyayaring masama, so that is anxiety. Irritability and irrational behavior. So, the long-term effect of shabu includes psychosis similar to schizophrenia and difficulty in concentrating, loss of interest in sex. So, ito yung mga nagiging long-term effect ng pag-take ng shabu. So, pwedeng itong loss of interest in sex. At first, hindi pa siya gano'n na nagmamanifest. But as it is taken in long term, pwedeng magkaroon na ng loss of interest. So, pwede rin magkaroon ng psychosis kasi nagkakaroon siya ng effect sa brains natin or psychological effect. So, the dangers of taking shabu or using shabu is, for example, injection yung ginamit. Pwedeng magkaroon ng contaminated needles that may lead to the risk of other infections aside from this effect. So, pwede magkaroon ng risk of infections, pwedeng phlebitis, septicemia, AIDS, and others na pwedeng ma-transfer with the use of contaminated needles. Okay, so this is an example of a long-term crystal meth user na nakaka-experience ng receding gums. So, meron din effect sa gums natin. Gums, meron loosened teeth and gum disease. And according to experts, users' teeth can become gray and their breath atrocious. So, nagkakaroon sila ng bad breath also. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yan. And then, eto receding gums. Nasisira din yung ngipin as effect of the methamphetamine hydrochloride. Kasi, yung tinitake na methamphetamine hydrochloride, acidic yun. Because of the presence of the hydrochloric acid na ginamit during production. Okay, so that's why kung makikita natin yung mga tao na really very drug dependent or addicted na talaga sila sa drugs, we can see and we can say that they are not even taking care of their own personal hygiene anymore. So this photo shows the horrors of methamphetamine. So if we can see at this picture, this is this person at his age 23. And then, ito na siya nung 25 years old siya. So, ito yung mga naging effect sa kanya ng methamphetamine. Merong effect sa skin niya. Nagkakaroon ng nag-worsen yung acne niya. And nagkakaroon siya nagkakaroon din siya ng obsessive skin prickling. Skin picking because the faces of meth users are covered in small sores and scarring, the result of a common sensory hallucination of bugs crawling beneath the skin. So, parang feeling kasi ng mga meth users, lalo na yung addicted na talaga, is palaging may gumagapang sa skin nila. That is why they have the need to scratch it. Kaya yan yung nangyayari. Nagkakaroon sila ng scars and sores dun sa skin nila. And then we have facial musculature and fat. Nagsusuppress kasi ng appetite, and that is why hindi na, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, kadalasan yung mga meth users or stimulants, other stimulants, nagkakaroon ng undernourishment. That is why, because they have long periods of not eating, and their body begins consuming muscle tissues. Kaya pumapayat yung mukha nila. Kasi kinoconsume na ng katawan yung muscle tissue and facial fat, giving users a gaunt, hollowed out appearance. So kaya minsan pag nakakita tayo ng sobrang payat na tao, 'di ba, binibiro natin as hadik yan na ganyan. Pero hindi natin alam ano ba kinakaadikan niya. Pero usually mga stimulants 'yun kasi nga hindi sila kumakain halos. That is why they are undernourished. So ito yung tinatawag na meth mouth. Ito, nadidissolve ng harsh chemicals yung mga tooth enamel, at saka yung mga blood vessels dun sa healthy gums nila nagsishrink, increasing the rate of decay. So, mas mabilis na nasisira yung mga ngipin nila. And the production of saliva diminishes, allowing harmful acids like what I have said, hydrochloric acid, to further damage the mouth. So, mahalaga kasi sa atin yung production ng saliva or yung laway natin kasi nakaka-regulate yan ng mga acids na pumapasok sa mouth natin. Kasi minsan, for example, umiinom tayo ng soft drinks. Di ba medyo acidic siya na nire-regulate ng saliva natin. So, they have cravings for sugary foods, and lalong nasisira yung mga ngipin nila dahil kadalasan kumakain sila ng mga sugary foods, and nane-neglect na nila yung hygiene nila. Tapos minsan nagkakaroon pa ng heavy tooth grinding because of the side effect of the drug. So, these are other illustrations. Kung makikita nyo yung comparison before and after. Yung before, maganda pa yung, kung makikita nyo, maganda pa yung itsura ng face niya. Although, on this picture, maganda pa rin naman siya. Kaya lang, meron siyang mga scratches sa mukha niya. Cost nga ng dangerous drug dependence niya. So, ganito din to. Ito yung sinasabi kanina. Picking for bugs under your skin isn't normal. Hindi yan normal sa atin na hindi addicted sa meth. But on meth, it is. So, yan, akala niya may gumagapang na kung anong insekto sa katawan niya or sa skin niya, kaya nagkakamot siya na nagkakamot. Kaya nagkakaganyan yung mga skin nila. Mayroong mga rashes, sores, and scarring. So, on this slide, we will see the methamphetamine addiction in 8 years sa isang individual. Makikita natin yung naging pagkakaiba ng itsura niya before hanggang dun sa naging 8 years na yung addiction niya. So, at first, yan siya. So, kung makikita nyo, unti-unti na nagkakaroon ng difference. Diba? And dito sa picture niya na to, medyo pumayat na yung face niya. Yan, kung makikita nyo dito, malalim na yung uka dun sa face niya. Hanggang sa dyan. And then finally, yan. Kasi nga, nakain na na-use up na ng system niya yung mga fatty body tissues niya and fatty muscles niya because of undernourishment. Dahil nga, sa stimulating effect ng stimulants or ng methamphetamine, nagiging undernourished sila at hindi na nila kailangang kumain or napapabayaan na nila even yung pagkain nila. You can take a look at it. So, next is cocaine. So, sabi natin kanina, meron tayong classification ng drugs according to how they are produced. And cocaine is an example of a natural drug from the coca plant. So, ito yung picture ng coca plant. So, kapag na-extract na siya, for example, ang gagamitin nating pang-extract is chloroform. I-air dry yung mga leaves na yan, and then ibababad siya sa chloroform, and then saka siya i-concentrate. And then, ito na yung mafo-form, yung cocaine. Sa mga movies or sa mga series, makikita natin yung cocaine as a white powdery substance na hinihilera nila, and then ini-sniff nila isa-isa yan. Okay? Ito yung ginagawa nila sa mga nakikita natin na pag-take in ng cocaine inside the body. So, kung makikita nyo ito, please pay attention to this. Yan. Kung makita nyo dito sa picture, ginagamit nila directly. Gumagamit sila na pang sniff. And then directly pumapasok yung cocaine dun sa ilong nila. Okay. So, these are the short-term effects of cocaine. So, mayroong intense high. Pag nag-take sila, at first, magkakaroon sila ng intense high. And then, bigla silang madedepress. And then, they will have diet and sleep problems, increased risk of heart attack, stroke, seizures, or respiratory failure. People can feel paranoid or angry even when they are high. And then, merong intense drug craving. Usually kasi sa mga Hollywood movies, yung mga ginagamit na drugs doon is usually cocaine, wherein mapapansin nyo doon sa nagkakaroon ng drug dependency or craving doon sa pag-take ng cocaine yung mga personalities doon. So, long-term effects of cocaine also includes severe tooth decay, increased frequency of risk behavior, tolerance and addiction, severe depression, permanent damage to blood vessels of heart and brain. So, nagkakaroon na ng permanent damage. Ibig sabihin, irreversible na yan. So, ito yung kaya kanina pinag-pay attention ko kayo dun sa mode of taking in nila, inhalation of cocaine. Kasi this is an example of, ayan. This is an example or an image of a perforated septum. Yung septum, itong gitna dito sa nose natin. Yung sa kanya, siguro, cocaine user siya. That's why nagkaroon siya ng perforated septum or nasira na yung septum niya dito, supposedly yung sa gitna ng ilong niya, kaka-inhale ng cocaine katulad nung inhalation na pinakita ko sa inyo kanina. That is why kapag ganun kasing ginagawa nila, nasisira yung septum natin kasi medyo fragile yung muscles natin dyan. Nasisira sa sobrang inhalation, effect na rin ng cocaine sa septum ng isang user. So, yan. So, now we will proceed to hallucinogens. These are drugs which affect the sensation, thinking, self-awareness, and emotion of an individual. So, kung makikita nyo dito sa picture, we have different colors, parang mga neon lights. Usually kasi yan yung nakikita ng mga hallucinated na persons. And these are usually in party mode. Yung mga hallucinogens kasi, as an example of hallucinogen is MDMA, methylene dioxymethamphetamine. MDMA is also a derivative of amphetamine, for example, from amphetamine to methamphetamine. and then MDMA. So, iniiba nila yung structure through reaction mechanisms. Iniiba nila yung structures ng drugs. Kasi at first, ito lang yung regulated or prohibited. So, gumawa sila ng another structure, which is the methamphetamine hydrochloride, na naging regulated na din. And then, they made another designer drug, which is MDMA, na na-regulate na din. Kasi nakikita na yung effect ng mga law officials. So, we have methylene dioxymethamphetamine. So, kung makikita nyo, andun pa rin yung mother molecule, which is amphetamine. So, ito yung mga tinatawag natin na party drugs or ecstasy, yung MDMA. So, kaya yung nasa picture is a party wherein there are lights, sounds, and colors. So, hallucinogens are drugs that can produce changes in mood and behavior and can produce delusions and hallucinations. Hallucinations, kaya ang tawag sa kanya ay hallucinogens. Ito yung nangyayari dun sa isang user. He or she may speak of hearing colors and seeing sounds, which should be the other way around, diba? So, nababaliktad na yung perception niya. So, these are examples of hallucinogens. We have marijuana, PCP, and LSD. Okay, marijuana is also an example of hallucinogen. So, and then we have ecstasy. I think this is the most popular hallucinogen. So, these are what are called designer drugs. Bukod sa pagiging designed na ng structure, chemical structure niya, meron din siyang design sa tablet niya. That's why it's also known as a designer drug. So, these are the effects of ecstasy in the body. So, anxiety, merong nagkakaroon ng blood clotting problems, hypothermia, depression, liver and kidney toxicity, dehydration, muscle breakdown. So, sometimes, meron ding nagkakaroon ng effect na immediate death. Lalo na kapag na-overdose sa ecstasy. That is why yun yung mga nangyayari sa parties na nag-overdose yung mga users or yung individuals na nagkakos ng nag-stop yung heart nila and then eventually resulting to death. Marami ng instances na nangyari na ganyan. I think that was an instance was in a close-up, parang concert, pa-concert ng close-up. Tapos nagkaroon ng, merong mga ingest ng, or nagkaroon ng overdose sa party drugs, kaya nagkaroon ng mga deaths or namatay yung mga ibang nag-ingest ng party drugs. So, marijuana, cannabis, or Indian hemp embraces every kind, class, genus, or species of the plant Cannabis sativa, including Cannabis americana, hashish, bhang, guava, churros, and ganja. Yan yung mga iba't ibang tawag din sa marijuana, pwede sa iba-ibang bansa. So, this is an example of what a marijuana leaf looks like. So, sinasabi nila na 5 fingers yan. Let's go back. Kanina dun sa may marijuana leaf. Here. Sabi ng iba, 5 fingers. Sabi naman ng iba, 7 fingers. So, usually, this is how a marijuana leaf looks like. I'm not sure kung may picture ako ng mismong marijuana. Okay, Cannabis sativa is an annual plant growth wild in many temperate parts of the world. It consists of crushed cannabis leaves and its flowers. So, dito sa atin usually nasa maraming nagkakaroon ng marijuana plantation. Usually sa north or sa Baguio, mga ganyan, yung mga nasa region Procor or Cordillera region kasi malamig doon. So mas nagkakaroon ng plantation doon. But since illegal yung pagtatanim ng marijuana, kapag may nakitang mga tanim doon, huhulihin yung may-ari ng tanim and then ika-crush yung plantation ng marijuana. So, kapag yung marijuana, hindi naman kasi yan as is na yung plant ang ginagamit na drugs ng mga nagtitake ng marijuana. So, pinapatuyo mo na or ina-air dry yung leaves and then minsan ginagrind nila at nilalagay sa mga rolling paper. Tapos saka i-smoke just like a cigarette. Kasi yung psychoactive complex or component ng marijuana is mas nakukuha kapag binaburn siya. That's why usually ang method ng pag-ingest or pag-take ng marijuana is through burning it and then inhalation ng burn. Parang sigarilyo din. So, yan. Binaburn niya. So, the common side effect of marijuana is euphoria, uncontrollable laughter, pure bliss, epic appetite, and reoccurring rainbows in one's cranium. So, kaya sinasabing rainbows in one's cranium or yung sa brain natin is because of the effect of hallucinogens. So, ito yung sinasabing epic appetite. That's why kabaligtaran ng marijuana yung sa shabu. So, kung sa mga nagtitake ng shabu, pumapayat sila, yung usually yung nagtitake naman ng marijuana is tumataba sila kasi nagkakaroon sila ng magandang appetite. But it doesn't not mean na healthy siya. So, the long-term effects of marijuana can cause psychotic symptoms. It can also change the lungs and the heart. It can also damage the lungs and heart, worsen the symptoms of bronchitis. Kasi, dinadaanan niya yung respiratory tract natin, which includes the bronchial nerves. So, pwedeng magkaroon ng symptoms ng bronchitis, coughing, and wheezing. And it may reduce the body's ability to fight lung infections and illnesses. So, kung makikita nyo dito sa picture, this is the difference of a healthy lungs and a lungs damaged by marijuana. So, parang sa pag-take din ng cigarettes, nagkakaroon din ng masamang effect sa lungs natin kasi ni-smoke din yung marijuana. So, smoking marijuana can hurt your ability to concentrate, remember what you have learned, focus on projects or tasks, react quickly while driving, perform in sports owing to the effects of coordination. So, ito yung mga harmful effects ng marijuana sa brain natin. Kasi, usually, yung concentration natin sa brain, yung remembering, focusing, at saka yung quick reaction natin, especially when driving. And then yung coordination natin, nagkakaroon din ng effect yung smoking of marijuana. Kung mapapansin nyo dito sa photo na to or sa picture na to, in-specify talaga na ini-smoke yung marijuana kasi that's the way of ingesting it inside the body. Dahil mas lumalabas yung psychoactive component niya with burning. That is why it is being smoked. Okay? So, now let's proceed with drug dependence. Ano ba yung tinatawag natin na drug dependence? If aware kayo sa mga court proceedings, since forensics naman yung subjects natin, so we will a little bit talk about yung mga court proceedings. So, meron na tayo ngayon na ini-implement sa courts, yung tinatawag na plea bargaining. Nagkakaroon ng plea bargaining, especially yung mga nahuhuli sa violation of RA 9165, which includes the dangerous drugs. So, may possibility na sila na mag-plea bargain into a much lower sentence basta aaminin nila yung isa dun sa mga violations. I mean, it depends on the court and on the lawyers. And then, meron doon nire-require, for example, meron na nag-avail ng plea bargaining, doon sa order na galing kay judge or sa court, inire-require sila to undergo a drug dependence test. So, this drug dependence test does not only include drug testing para malaman if positive sila or negative sa dangerous drugs sa katawan nila. Drug dependence does not only include drug testing. Kailangan pa ng assessment niyan galing sa psychologist or sa doktor para malaman kung dependent pa ba sila sa drugs or hindi. Okay? So these are the indicators of drug dependence. So, ito yung mga signs of drug abuse sa personality ng isang tao. Nagiging disrespectful na siya, verbally or physically abusive. So, pwede rin na nagiging angry siya a lot, acts paranoid or confused, and then nagkakaroon siya ng extreme mood swings. So, from happy, bigla siya magiging sad or bigla siya magiging magagalitin. Yan yung isa sa mga makikita nating signs of drug abuse. Sa personality, nagiging depressed na siya and less outgoing than usual, lalo na kung before mahilig siya mag-hangout with friends or mahilig siya makipag-bonding sa mga friends niya. Hindi na siya nagiging outgoing than usual. And then, nagiging secretive siya. And then, he or she lies what he or she is doing and where he or she is going. So, hindi niya sinasabi kasi ayaw niyang malaman ng iba kung saan siya pupunta. And then, pwede rin magkaroon ng stealing or losing of possessions used to value kasi pambibili niya nga ng dangerous drugs. So, pwede rin naman na parang marami siyang pera or pwede rin na palagi siya nanghihingi ng pera. So, eto, not taking care of the hygiene and grooming. Kung makikita nyo naman, napapabayaan na yung sarili. Pero, kung if you will take a closer look at this is a picture of the so-called taong grasa. Pero hindi naman lahat ng taong grasa na ganito yung itsura. Ibig sabihin, drug dependent or abusive na sa drugs. Meron lang talaga na siguro pwedeng before nagkaroon ng effect yung dangerous drugs sa brains nila or sa nagkaroon ng psychological effect sa kanila. That's why nag-result sa pagiging ganito nila. Pagiging taong grasa na tinatawag natin. Pag-alagala sa kalye, yung mga ganun. Kasi parang may mga narinig na rin ako ng mga stories na before okay yung buhay niya. Yung mga nakakikitang taong grasa sa kalsada, before okay yung buhay niya, and then nalulong sa drugs. So, kapag ka ganun, napabayaan na niya yung sarili niya, and then hindi na niya maibalik sa dati because nagkaroon na ng psychological effect dun sa brains niya. Okay. So, ito, not sleeping or sleeping too much. And then loss of appetite, weight loss or gain, too hyperactive or too little energy, as what we have also discussed earlier. So, drops old friends and activities sa school. And then, usually nag-skip ng school or natutulog sa klase. Meron, nawawala na ng interest kahit low na yung grades niya. And then, nawawala na ng concentrations and nahirapan na mag-remember ng things. So, ito naman yung indicators ng possession of paraphernalia. Merong hypodermic needles na hindi naman kailangan, lalo na kung hindi naman siya medical professional. Yan. Balloons. Aluminum foil wrappers, flat metals or short straws, pang sniff, yan. So, eto yan sila. And then, glass or smoking pipes. Yan. Usually, yan yung mga paraphernalia na makikita or ma-observe natin sa mga drug users na persons. Mga lighters, especially for those who are non-smokers, parang nakakapagtaka naman bakit meron silang cigarette lighters. Okay, hindi naman lahat, pero usually it's an indicator. So these are the basic paraphernalia of shabu user. So meron ditong tutor, and then yung foil, and lighter. So nilalagay yung crystalline substance dito sa foil, and then ilalight siya, medyo mag-melt siya, and then habang nagme-melt siya, yun yung i-sniff through a tutor. So now we will proceed with the examination of dangerous drugs. So I think I will upload this discussion individually or separately dun sa first discussion natin para mas madali nyong hindi naman siya sobrang haba, para mas madali nyo agad makita yung kung gusto nyong balikan for review yung examination of dangerous drugs, and then i-review nyo yung classifications of dangerous drugs, mas madali kayong maghahanap, or lalo na kung papa-backward or forward nyo. That's why we will first end our discussion here, our recorder discussion here, and then I will upload or make another video discussion or record another discussion pertaining to the examination of dangerous drugs separately. Okay, for now, thank you for listening for the first part of our chapter 3. So we will consider this as the next part or next portion para hindi masyadong mahaba yung papanoorin nyo. Okay? Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me. And for clarifications also, I hope you understand my discussion. And if not, please inform me and let me know kung meron kayong hindi maintindihan dun sa diniscuss ko. Thank you very much and keep safe.